Hello and welcome to Reimagining Love. I'm Dr. Alexandra Solomon. I have been studying relationships for over 20 years as a couples therapist, a professor, an award-winning author, and as a wife, mother, daughter, sister, and friend. Now, I'm inviting you into this space each week as I dig into some of the toughest and most fascinating relational dilemmas of our time. If you want to discover how to create vibrant and loving relationships in your own life, you have come to the right place. This is Reimagining Love. Hello, Reimagining Love listener. I am so excited for you to hear today's episode. You know, when we have conversations about sex here on the podcast, I'm always hoping that you're going to leave feeling excited and emboldened, that you're going to gain new tools, whether you are a dater or someone in a long-term relationship. And when I say tools, what I'm really talking about are those relational skills that make sex better for everyone, like great communication, like shame busting, like self-care. Shan Boodram, my guest today, is actually the queen of creating these types of conversations. After our conversation, I was left feeling so refreshed and so excited for all of you to step more deeply into your sexy, as I call it, and the sex life that you're building with your partner or with your future partner. Shan is a renowned sexuality educator and a certified sexologist who you may know from Netflix's Too Hot to Handle, the Marriage Pact on the Roku Channel, and X-Rated on Peacock, which she co-hosted with Andy Cohen. Shan is also a fellow MasterClass instructor. She has a fantastic MasterClass called The Art of Seduction that you're going to get a sampler of during this conversation. The masterclass leads folks through the fundamentals of flirting and intimacy and how to foster deep physical and emotional connection. I really can't recommend it enough to you. And we've shared the link in the show notes for you to check it out. I love Shan's approach to sexuality education. It's welcoming and fun, but she also has this reverence for sex and sexuality that is so beautiful, from redefining the way that we draw wisdom from the ancient Kama Sutra text to even designing jewelry that encourages us to reclaim pleasure in the bedroom. Shan has this really expansive and spiritual approach to a topic that is central to our humanity, to our aliveness. And by doing so, she inspires us to afford it that same gravity in our own lives. And at the same time, she also gives great practical advice that you can put to use today, like her iconic sexy eye triangle flirting tip that you're going to learn in this episode. I hope that you love hearing from Shan. I know that you will. So without further ado, let's dive in. Shan, you are here with me on Reimagining Love. I feel like I have just been knowing you and loving you from a distance for a long time. So thank you for showing up with me here today.
Thank you for having me. And you know, the feeling is mutual and it feels like, oh, there's my girl. Like, what do you have for lunch today? We're talking about that. Have you had a bowel movement recently? Like, that's the intimacy I feel between us.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, well, I'm so excited to talk to you about so many things, but I want to start right off with the question that I ask all of the guests. So, Miss Shan, how are you reimagining love in one of your important relationships these days?
Yes, I was so called to answer this because of the work that I do, the work that we do. I'm always examining the little things that I do that make a difference in my connections, or the little ways that I'm evolving or adjusting or sometimes reclaiming things that I didn't used to know. So two things come to mind, but I'm going to focus on the one of my daughters because that relationship is changing so much so fast because they are changing so much so fast. They're ages 2 and 4. And I've come to a place with them now where they're 2.5 and 4.5. Let me say that before I say the rest of the sentence. You're going to be like, you're a crazy girl. Because I'm starting to be able to trust them to not kill themselves if I'm not present. And that comes a little bit of also to like reclaiming my time, of reclaiming some space of the thing about mothering that I don't think I realized, I don't think anybody can really know till you do it, is just the insane amount of time that it takes because you have never done anything this much in your life. You've never looked after yourself this much in your life. You've never had to focus on your survival so intently. I remember I went on vacation with the kids, and every night I'd come home and I would just be exhausted, not physically, but cognitively. And then I was like, what does this remind me of? I'm like, this reminds me of taking my SATs. Like the amount of focus that you had to have doing your SATs, every question was so important. Every word was so critical. So you had to read it 5 times. Like that's what it's like being around small kids because you can't take a break and you have to study them. So it was just like that. You're just staring at someone so intently and you're trying to find this balance between protecting and also scaffolding. And it's just, it can be a lot. So I kind of feel like now things are easing up a little bit and I'm getting back some time because of that, because it's like, hey, I'm going to do something in the car for a second. You guys can run upstairs. Or we have a friend on the street, which I like love this because Esther Perel always asks the question of, did you play on your street? And she made the observation that more and more people's answers are no, like it's not safe to play on my street. But my kids have like a really good friend the house over. And so sometimes I can watch them walk to that friend's house. And I'm like, yeah, go ahead and walk over to Millie's house. So it's like getting some parts of yourself back. And so I was reflecting on like, well, what am I giving if I am getting, right? So what is it that if I'm taking more for me, what am I giving them more of? And then I realized like, oh, I can't be an AirPod mom anymore because for a long time I was an AirPod mom because I'm like, I have to be with you all the time. So I'm going to have an AirPod in where I am listening to an audiobook, listening to a
Right.
podcast,
Right.
right? Like I need this time for me, but I know I have to be with you. So I'm going
Totally.
to be playing, I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
engaging, but I'm also going to be taking something for me. And
Uh-huh.
then now just because they're more sharp and aware and they have insights, like I think I have to like actually listen to them and be 100% present because I can afford to devote that to them because I'm also getting time back for myself in other ways. And so we actually got to watch a movie start to finish like 2 weeks ago while the kids were awake. And that was such a victory. So yeah, I think that's how I'm reimagining, love for them of it's like not taking away, it's not less, it's just
Mm-mm.
shifting a little bit. Yeah.
Well, there's something so powerful about the framing of what am I giving because of what I'm getting. And that's such a powerful way to say it because so often, I mean, so much of motherhood is about the giving. And you are like just in looking at the equation in that way, like you're talking about like, listen, let's be realistic, there is a limit to what I can give. And you knew that when they were very small and it was hypervigilant, right? Vigilant care from the moment they woke up till the moment they went to sleep, the only way you could give to yourself was a little AirPod in your ear. And and now you are able to give differently because you are getting these little pockets of time and you're getting probably the nervous system resets when there's a little bit of distance between you and the girls, right? Your system kind of comes like you feel the bounds of your own body and your own self when there's a little bit more space between you and them. And then you're able to really be present when you are together.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because there's some things I do as a parent that you're like, I could do better. And there's some things that you do as a parent that you're like, I'm doing too much. So there's always kind of that bracket. I don't know when you're ever in the sweet spot. You're either like doing too much and spoiling them or not doing enough and neglecting them. But
Right.
one of the areas I spoil my kids, and again, to that give to get formula there is that my night times used to be devoted to the night. That's the thing about not acknowledging the time that it takes to parent because you don't really even get sleep off. Like you're so acutely aware of them. You're waking up multiple times a night and they need you in their sleep often. So you still have to parent and mother even during your sleeping rest hours. And that's kind of stopped now. Like they can actually like take a night to themselves. And so we're for bedtime, I rub my girls to sleep. I am like a rubbing whore, whatever you want. I'm a freak.
Oh,
I would do some crazy things to have someone rub my back. Like what? If somebody on the bus wants to do it, if you're in a Starbucks line, you start rubbing my back, I will take off my clothes and be like, yes, I love
please
it.
that.
Yes, what anybody can get it. Anybody who wants to give it, get my back. Like I actually used to
Oh,
fantasize about that. Like when I'm a very rich woman, I'm
yeah.
going to pay somebody a lot of money to come every night and
Just a
rub me,
rubber, a paid
just rub
rubber.
me tenderly. Yeah, because your husband is great, but he's gonna have off nights and on nights. Like I would let him know, like this was a good one, this was
He
not.
may cover it. He may do that because that would give him a night off. So this really benefits him as well.
Yeah,
This keeps him
exactly.
fresh. Hmm.
Yeah, let's start a GoFundMe for that.
Okay.
So I do that for my kids every night, and my husband is like, they're not going to be able to fall asleep by themselves. And they take longer to fall asleep because they have this, and so he was trying to negotiate that with me. But I was like, you know, I know it takes a little bit longer for bed, but I really value that. It's my dream, and so to give that to my kids because they really love it too. Like which is not a positive thing to say, but they get really sad when their dad puts them to bed, but it's because mom's the rubber, so
Right.
mom's going to provide that thing for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm like, I'm happy to give this to you because you're getting in return, you're giving me back, a full night's rest. So I want to set you up for the same.
Hmm. And like you said, it's so valuable to you. And you see and the value and you watch them drift off to sleep in a really like delicious way. You were saying before also about this tightrope, this like motherhood, not parenting, but maybe mothering in particular, tightrope of am I doing too much or am I not doing enough? Am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? And it feels like a tightrope and it can feel very either or. And I tell you, our kids are 20 and 22. And I just today was spinning out about a situation with one of our kids where I am having a really hard time feeling into, where are the boundaries? Where are the limits? What's too much? What's enough? It is just, and I think, there's a part of me that can get really self-critical because I've been a parent for a very long time. But to the point you made right at the beginning, they change, right? They're changing. And so I am getting to know this child in this season of their life. And so the metrics and the context, I'm just getting to know them. This is my first time ever being the parent of young adults. So it is a reminder for me to be self-compassionate about just how real that tension is, what's too much, what's not enough.
Yes.
Okay, so you have this big, bodacious career that spans so many different venues and arenas. And I would love for you to talk just a bit. Like the thing I mostly want to know is like when you were just a little baby grad student or little baby college student, imagining your future as a sexuality educator, like a teacher to the core. Is this what you visioned for yourself? Like what were your big dreams when you were little?
Yes. I'm going to say a huge yes. And that's a beautiful yes to say because I do feel like sometimes people ask that question of like, what's next for you? And I feel like that answer to that question has like been the same for 20 years. And what a gift it is to say that. Like, I love what I'm doing now, just more of that. We actually hired somebody to help us with operations management last year because we're like, I think this is a business. Let's try to actually, treat it as such. And his questions were all like, okay, well, like, how do you want to phase yourself out? How many years till you phase yourself out of your business? And what would it look like? And would you be interested in selling? And I was like, this whole language was just so foreign to me because I'm like, I want to do this forever. And I genuinely think when I look back, that's just always been true. Like, and which is a strange thing to say, because if I was a pianist and I was like, I've wanted to be a pianist since I was a 3-year-old, you'd be like, that makes sense. But I genuinely feel like I've wanted this since I was as young as I can remember. I've loved intimacy. I've loved the human body. I've loved the idea of pleasure and of connection, of touch. That's obviously evolved with time and with age. I actually spend a lot of time talking about age by age sexual development because I need that information because for so long I felt fast and wrong and bad. And I think also too, my natural interest in this area, people often wonder if there's trauma associated with that. And it wasn't. Like it was an undefiled, curious, joyful, whimsical part of my life from the beginning. But people's negative assumptions on it and their suppressions and their warranted fear. So I always make sure to say that is what made it defiled or what made it muddy. And when I turned 19 years old and I got to a place in my life sexually where I had so many negative experiences. I felt so disconnected from my body. I had been to the sexual health clinic many times and been bawling in there. And I was like, is this what they were all trying to warn me about? Right? Is this, you know, as a young kid, when you show interest, you're discouraged every step of the way because of fear. And as you get a little older and you go to school, namely, I went to Catholic school, that discouragement is even louder. And so essentially what happened is in my teen years, I still had the interest and now I had the hormones and the urges, but I also had the cultural awareness that this was a bad thing and a bad part of myself. So I relegated it to a life of secrecy, which meant porn, watching fiction movies, reading fiction novels. And that was my outlet to learn. And obviously, if that is your shepherd, you're going to end up in a very dry, dead end field. And so that's how I would describe my sex life. In my teens, it was just sparse and spiky and dry and unnourished, unloved, forgotten. And so I got to a place where I was like, okay, I guess all of the adults in my life were right. Expressing an interest in this, actually acting out in this area does lead to a lot of pain. But then I had another thought. I'm like, well, what if I just don't have the right information? And I placed my chips on that. I got a library card and read every book that I could. And I was like, wow, there's great information here, but it's so boring. How can I make sex ed sexy? How do I make intimacy education actually intimate and inviting? And that's how I started my career in 2005, maybe. It probably wasn't that, but my first book came out in 2008. And then that's pretty much been the beginning of my career. And to this day, I still try to find ways to get the average person excited about this part of their life and acknowledging that showing love to your intimate self and intimate care and pouring into your intimate relationships is the rising tide. I think in North American culture, we're kind of conditioned to believe that intimacy is one of the ships. Like, focus on your career, focus on purity, focus on being a good girl or a good man. And once you figure all that out and you establish yourself, then you can worry about this. And that's going to rise. But I'm like, no, when you pour into this, that fuels everything else. And that's been the truth for me and a truth that I'm happy to champion.
I hate that your sex education work is as important here in 2025, years after you started doing it, as it was in the beginning. I am teaching right now my undergrad students at Northwestern, this class I do called Marriage 101. And during the week where we talked about sex, I brought my little clitoris, my stuffed clitoris that I bought on Etsy a few years ago. And I'm talking through the diagrams and, had my students raise their hands to ask how many of them had ever, seen this content, this diagram, this way of looking at the, our physical bodies, and just the number of hands that went up that this was all brand new information was just so striking. And students who were talking about the pressure to sign purity pledges, as recently as a few years ago, and being taught that, their first sex education being about burning in hell, this was still where we are. So your work is as essential as ever.
Thank you. And that is, again, it's both a compliment and a terrifying statement. I do like to think that, there's definitely going to be pockets. I do love the amount of progress I've seen in this space since I began. And I put it down to something as simple as the orgasm gap. When I began, it was 3-to-1, and now it's 2-to-1.
We love it. That's
so
great.
For every
That's
2
progress.
orgasms, right,
Mm-hmm.
a straight man has, a straight cis heterosexual woman has 1 in return. It used to be 3-to-1, 20 years ago. And when I first started in this space, the big joke, it's so laughable now to think that in my lifetime it was like this, but it was like, where's the clitoris? How do you find that thing? And the women's bodies are so confusing.
It's such a
Where
mystery.
is it? It's right there, buddy. You know exactly where your penis is. It's actually right there. And it's not under the skin. It's visible. It's there. It's a little smaller. In some cases, micropenises are the same size as hanging clitorises. So sometimes it's not smaller, but that to be said, it's literally in the same place. So let's just stop all this fake outrage in order to justify our own fear of women's sexual pleasure and their right to it.
Amen. Well, one of your, you have created so many different partnerships and done so many different projects with the media, but one of your most recent projects is one that you and I share in common, which is that you just launched a masterclass not too long ago. So we are now sisters in the masterclass community. And we were saying before we started recording, like just how impressive it is that MasterClass, they have got such a beautiful library on so many topics that are about what it means to live a good life and a meaningful life and a purposeful life and how to like learn and grow our skills. But your class, which is called the Art of Sex Appeal, is, in the classes that I'm launching with MasterClass, these are a little bit different than some of the content that they have been producing for many, many years. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about your class with MasterClass, the Art of Sex Appeal, and what you feel really proud of about it.
Oh my goodness. Thank you and congratulations to you. It was such an honor. I was so excited for you because I am an admirer of your work. And I was also excited for us, as a community of educators to be like, we're here. Because sometimes people feel, I actually wrote to pitch myself for something recently. And the person wrote back, like, we only talk about love in February, so we'll circle back. I was like, got it.
That is precisely the problem.
Yeah. So
Let's talk about it more than that.
So it was really cool
really
that
funny.
the masterclass is doing that and investing in that. And it's been the whole thing is such an honor. Had so much imposter syndrome when that opportunity came up and continue to have that throughout. And I couldn't have had a more supportive group of people who were a part of the masterclass team, just lift me up, encourage me, and push me. And I really pushed myself. And I genuinely think of my class on masterclass as 2 hours of everything that I know from the past 20 years. It is the single best place to get a truncated snapshot of everything that I wish I could put my hands on your grandma's shoulders and put my hands on your grandpa's shoulders and your niece and nephews and your best friends. It's everything I wish I could whisper lovingly into their ears so that they knew what was possible for them and their bodies. And so episode 1 really is all about that, just about sex. And I love that. Everything from how do you think about what you want to foreplay to anatomy. Let's talk about like the different spots, multiple orgasms, but then also to like, what is the truth behind multiple orgasms? Is that actually what the goal is? Reframing the goal, talking about social sexual scripts, aftercare, dysfunction, all of those delicious, fun, juicy positions. I of course, talk about positions through the framework of the Kama Sutra and redefining the way that we think about that text and bringing in parts of the Kama Sutra that often get left behind. And one of those is jewelry. And the Kama Sutra essentially was a book that was written for men of leisure, men of the court. So these were men who had time. They're basically what we'd call today men in their soft life era. Like he comes from wealth, right? So he has time to practice the arts. He has time to indulge in the art of lovemaking. And so he wants to be really great at those things. And so the Kama Sutra was teaching men about women's sexual pleasure and anatomy and bodies. And it was doing so through the framework of jewelry. And it's how we can wear jewelry to instruct us how to move our body because it gives us something to focus on. And that's what I introduced in the class there. And this was a gift of teachings that Seema Anand, who has a PhD in narrative studies, who's done tons of work retranslating the Kama Sutra, was able to pull out these delicious gems. So it's a little bit of history. It's a little bit of present day.
That's so cool. What I love about that too, it is such a reminder that the defiling that we do is in some ways a uniquely modern problem, right? Because the Kama Sutra, how old is the Kama Sutra?
2,500, I think, years.
So we as humans have gotten that this is our birthright. This is who we are. We are these bodies, and these bodies are designed to give and receive and co-create pleasure. And we've lost that through line. And so I love by you weaving the Kama Sutra into your masterclass, you are like reconnecting us to something that is historic.
I love that you said that because I genuinely, we talk about that so much so I did a jewelry line with a company called Surmai in collaboration with Seema Anand. And we discussed about that so much, how sometimes we can think of like, want to hear a crazy fact?
Yeah.
The clitoris was only fully anatomically discovered in the way that we know now in 2005.
Yeah.
Like, we have had a labeling of the anatomy of a penis since 35 BCE. Like that. So it can sometimes feel like this is new. And because it's new, when we're engaging in these, we might feel like, oh, I'm disappointing my ancestors, or, oh, grandma, don't watch this. And instead, it's like, these are actually truths that our ancestors already knew, and they're happy to see us return to them. They're happy to see us name them and shout it from the streets. But in ancient texts and in stories and in the ways that women were taught about their sexuality within enclosed spaces, this was common knowledge. And I'm happy that we're getting back there.
Yeah. Okay, while we're on the jewelry, so we are going to have in the show notes links to your masterclass, because everyone needs to see it and engage with that content, because it is such a distilled version of your whole body of work, and also links to the jewelry line. So what else do you want us to know and understand about this beautiful partnership? Like, why for you did this partnership and this jewelry line, like, why was it important for you to endeavor into this space of jewelry?
Because Marriage 101 is not a compulsory class. It should be, right? The work that you teach, and that should be a compulsory class in high school, right? Like that's basic grounding information that is going to make a huge difference on your quality and scientifically your quantity of life, right? So if we don't have any functional ways of learning about this, then we don't really get to learn. And so I just love anything that takes tacit knowledge into structured functional knowledge. And tacit knowledge is what a lot of us have on our intimate selves. We what feels good and what doesn't. It's like when you bite into something and you're like, it's not tangy, it's not sour, it's not savory. You're like, what is this? And someone's like, umami. You're like, that's what it is, right? And you get the word for it. And then now when you go somewhere, you're like, can you make it with a little bit of umami? And the person's like, oh yeah, I know what that means. But tacit is when we have information on the inside that we don't have language for. And so we just end up being silent about it. And when we can take that information and actually apply it to a word or to a system, then all of a sudden it becomes something we can all share. And so that's what the jewelry is really meant to do is, all right, you might kind of instinctively know that as a woman, when I'm on top, I know I've seen porn before and I kind of have an idea of what I've seen in films. I think I'm supposed to bounce up and down. But when I move back and forth and don't necessarily like hop, but instead scoot or glide, it's much more pleasurable for me. And there's a jingling girdle in the Kama Sutra they talk about where a woman wears a waist belt that is filled with bells. And her job when she's on top is to make sure the bells don't make a sound. And why? Because when a woman bounces up and down, you're going to hear the bells. But when she prioritizes her pleasure, she moves back and forth and it's silent. And if you start to go into revert mode where you're like, my partner's getting bored or this isn't working or I should be prioritizing them, you might think back to hop, but then the bells go off and you say, no, center yourself. Like it's okay to prioritize your pleasure. And as we know from the clitoral internal complex system, when we're moving back and forth, we're hitting parts of the clitoris internally. And then according to Emily Nagoski's rule of thumb, if your clitoris is low enough to the vaginal opening, you can tilt your pelvis forward and actually rub up against your partner's body, which gives you both outer and inner at the same time. And most women who orgasm from penetration will report doing so from being on top. So we made this jingling girdle as that reminder. And what I love about this jewelry, which actually, I'm so grateful for this. My first vibrator was a wearable vibrator from this company called Love Crave that I still champion to this day. And for a very long time, because I was sort of nomadic as we kind of are in our early years, right? You have roommates or you're moving around a lot, or you're subleasing or you're renting a room from somebody else's house. The idea of having a sex toy that someone could find was so mortifying. You just don't even get them.
Mm.
And when I bought the Love Crave, necklace, it was a vibrator that was a necklace. So you wouldn't really know unless you knew. And that was like, ooh, like I can do this. And then that was the first time I realized like, oh yeah, like my sexuality can be this. It's something that I wear out in the world that I'm proud of. That has a secret hidden message for me. If someone discovered it, I wouldn't be embarrassed. But if I wanted that person to know about it, I could tell them something really rich about a part of myself I'm very proud of. And it's represented in a very chic way. So the jewelry is very important that it's that too, that's wearable for the outside world and also for the inside. But if your kids stumbled upon it, they wouldn't be like, what the hell is
Yeah,
this?
right. Oh, when you were talking about the waist girdle, I just got tearful. I just think it's so like, how beautiful that you created that for us, and I love that the sound is the reminder that you, my love, are exiting your experience and come back to you, come back to your body. It's such to pair jewelry and embodiment and sex is just so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
I
that.
cannot wait to get myself one. Okay, so I would love for you to talk about flirting. I feel like I have not talked nearly enough, or maybe possibly not at all, on Reimagining Love about flirting. So, what is your working definition of flirting, and what do most of us get wrong about flirting? What do we misunderstand
Yes.
about it?
Ooh, I'm tempted to ask you the question of your definition first, or what you think the common definition is. Well, I know you're going to have a pro one.
No, I
So
don't have,
let's
it's not a pro
go.
one. It's, what mine is? It's like peekaboo. That's what I say. It's like peekaboo. A little back and forth, a little playful back and forth. Okay, you go.
I
You
do
go with the
love
real
that.
one.
I think that that's great. I think that that is the playful back and forth, and the peekaboo is a game that you can play regardless of what your end investment is or relationship is with that person. So I actually think it's a great definition. I think some people they put a lot of stock into flirting as this very intimate, sort of very seductive, which it can be seductive, but not necessarily in a sexually connotative way. I think of flirting as simply communication plus sparks. And the sparks are something that we can like visibly kind of feel between us. And it's just something that's just like, it can be something mundane, right? I can just tell you, like, your hair looks really hot today. It looks really like
Mm-hmm,
great. It
mm-hmm.
looks like you had a really full day. And the way that I say full, because I'm imagining what full things that you did, and you pick up on that.
Uh-huh.
And because there's something between
Uh-huh.
us, right? And there's a moment where we're like, oh, right. And we don't have to engage or go further. As a matter of fact, you might take that and apply it to your partner later on tonight. But it's just a moment that like wakes you up inside that says, like, oh, like I am a being deserving of desire, who experiences desire. And there's moments where I get to delight in that. And that's what flirting is. Flirting is the word that encapsulates that magical feeling that I hope people get their entire life. So often when we talk about flirting, we're like, okay, single people, everybody else, class
Yep.
is dismissed. Single people,
Yep.
stick
It's done.
around.
It's over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I want
Mm-hmm.
everyone to stay
Mm-hmm.
after class.
There's something just so permission giving about that framing, that it is erotic, truly, in the sense of erotic being our connection to our aliveness. Because the flirting is a reminder to us, to ourselves, and to the other person of our aliveness. And it is not, I love in your definition and your description, it's not a means to an end, right? There's no definitive end. And what I also heard in your definition is that there's no right or wrong way to do it. It has to look like this. It can't look like that. It should be this. It shouldn't be that. That it gets to be idiosyncratic and and it has to be contextual.
Yes. I mean, I think the wrong way to do it is like for there not to be sparks. Some people just communicate and then they don't add any spark to it. And they're like, I was flirting. Why didn't you tell? You're like, because you just asked me what time it was. Why? I had no idea that there was anything tied to that, because you're like, I'm going to go flirt with that person. Excuse me, what time is it? Thank you. And then you walked away. Like, you're like, well, I flirted. I made a move. Like you've got to give the sauce, the intention behind it. I used to do photography before I got into this work. It's not actually true. So I graduated from journalism. In journalism school, they say write what you know. So I wrote about sex. I had a book come out about sex, and as books are, when you're just starting out and you don't have a name, it was not a game changer, a life changer. So I put out this book, and I was like, okay, well, now what will I do to survive? Because that's not going to help
Mm-hmm.
me do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing wedding photography, because you learn about photography in journalism school. And I learned a lot about people through photography. And one of the most profound things that I learned is whatever you think is true will end up being true on your face. And people are not great actors. Because even on a day where you're supposed to be like happy and feeling your most beautiful, I can really tell if you don't. and that camera can tell if you don't. And it's what you feel on the inside, whatever scripts you're telling yourself. And, I've photographed all kinds of people, and it doesn't really matter how they appear on the outside. If that story within isn't there, it doesn't translate or show up. So I've learned from that. And when I take pictures to this day, I just picture having sex with a photographer, right? I take myself there. And before I go take photos, I look at myself in the mirror. I play songs that hype me up. I tell myself the truth about how worthy and how incredible and how hot, how interesting, how fascinating, how cool I am, and how awesome it is that I get to capture the magic that I have in a moment on camera. I should do that for all times in all of my life. But those are also big, important things too. Before you flirt with somebody, what were you talking about to yourself before you made the interaction, right? What conversations were you having with yourself? Because that's going to determine the quality of the interaction that you're going to have with somebody else.
That the best flirting comes from a platform of deep connection to self-worth, self-trust, self-love. That is the birthplace of it.
Yeah, it's flirting
Yeah.
with yourself first. When you've been flirting with yourself all day and filling yourself up with those moments of spark, feels oh, stop. When you flirt with someone starts, you're like, oh, stop. Well, you flirt. You're
You
pouring it
silly.
on. You're silly. Right? You got to give yourself that. Oh my gosh, Shan, just pipe down. Okay, I heard you. Yes. You're embarrassing me. You kind of have to have that. And then when you walk up to somebody, that's the energy that, that you get to give off. And those are usually times where it's easier to read. I mean, flirting is not successful if it didn't land. Some people are very resistant to the messages. I think from a biological perspective, we're all designed to pick up on mating cues, right? If you watch any National Geographic documentary, we're all inherently built in mating cues, and we have to be able to have receptors to pick up on that, because we're supposed to be mating in the bush, and we have 5 minutes before that saber-toothed tiger comes. So we better get this show on the road, right? So it's important to have that rapid ability to assess, oh, there's something here. So we all have that, but there are some people who years of telling themselves a different story or being told a different story can be very resistant to the idea that anyone thinks kind things about them or anybody is attracted to them.
It's very vulnerable. There's a vulnerability in flirting. So that's why I love your invitation for flirting to start with yourself, because then it's not, I was good to the degree that you found me attractive and desirable. You were good to the degree that you had the courage to flirt and to be playful, that it is not, that you have determined, you already have asked and answered the question about your own worth, lovability, desirability, that's not contingent on what happens next with the other person.
Yes, the flirtiest moment that I encountered this year that it gives me kind of chills talking about it. I was going for dinner in New York. I work for a company called Aria, and it's a beautiful, genius company. And in essence, it allows couples to have a novel sexual experience once a month and does all the work for you. So I was going for dinner with the founders of this, and as founders of companies often are, they're bald, older white men, right? So one of the guys I was going for dinner with, he was walking ahead, and then this other woman came out, and she was an older woman, and did she hold the door for him? But the way that she looked at him as we were making this transition in the restaurant and she was coming out, I was like, oh my God, ooh, that was intense. And it was a moment and it never went anywhere and it was nothing. And I don't know if it filled him up with a sense of confidence, but it made me feel really confident, because I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be that flirty, in my, she may have been in her 60s. I'm going to give that kind of fire and that kind of heat. And it lasts. It's like a kind gesture that you get to keep with you. It's like that stranger who said or did something really nice and you don't even know their name, but you remember them the rest of your life. You kind of have that same power with flirting.
That's beautiful. Okay, well, so even though we're saying that there's not necessarily you have to do it this way, you can't do it this way, I do want to ask you about the sexy eye triangle. Can you please tell us what that is and how we might pull that off?
Can I just tell you that my love-hate relationship with this, because it's love, because it's people love it, and I'm happy to provide something that people like and that feels tangible. And it's hate because it's oh, we're just trying to make sex education or intimacy education like a TikTok hack. When somebody does something on TikTok and then you're like, you're able to make a whole meal if you just do, and it's like, it's really not. And then you try to do the hack and it doesn't actually work because like that was just done to commodify this, but there might be somebody who can make it work. And it's not that you can't, but again, if you don't have what we just talked about first, like sort of that already existing script that's happening, if you don't already know what your power is and have a joy in like giving that away and of spellbounding people with it, then it's a hack that you'll try to do and wonder why the TikTok hack didn't work for you. But in essence, it's playing with eye contact. A lot of people will hear when you flirt, eye contact is important, which of course, eye contact is important. But guess what? You're going to give eye contact to your instructor. You're going to give eye contact to the Terminex person who's explaining to you why you've got bugs, right? To your grandma. It's a sign of respect. And when we look directly at somebody, it's respect. When we look down at somebody, right, it's a little bit of dominance. When we look up at somebody, it's admiration or maybe even like a little bit of mischievousness. And so the sexy eye triangle tries to incorporate all of them and also acknowledging that one of the sexiest ways we can use our eyes to communicate desire isn't necessarily eye contact, it's the look up and down. Like when somebody looks you up and down, right? It can be really, really erotic. And again, going back to what I said about us being designed to pick up these mating cues. So the sexy eye triangle is to take an eye. So start with left because you really want to get focused eye contact, really direct, intentional eye contact. And that is a power that many people overlook because I know that I'm good at eye contact and people find it arresting sometimes. I'm like, well, all of us in the world are told to make eye contact. But when we are with somebody who is actually giving us that focused attention, there is something special about it because we think we're giving eye contact, but we're looking past people or we're like looking at them and then looking away. So really just picking an eye just allows you to actually get that focused contact. So you pick an eye and you focus on that eye and then you talk. And the moment feels right, you look down at their body and then you look back up. And then you choose the other eye to look. So it's going to be the here and then the down and then the back up. And when we're here, we're in that mischievous sort of submissive position. And it gives people butterflies. It gives them that jolt. And if you're not sure if your flirting is landing, that's a good sucker punch.
I love it. I felt it when you just did it just now. Even though we're on Zoom.
Right, yeah.
As we're talking about flirting, I'm thinking about this cycle where the more a listener is kind of feeling emboldened to like connect with self and maybe play with flirting, the more they get the feedback from the world about the impact of their face, the impact of their eyes, the impact of their body. And there's something healing, like maybe frightening or worrisome about letting themselves be seen, about playing with that kind of power. But in putting it out there, they get like that experience then of the feedback from the other that then is also healing. It's like the courage of doing it, the reward for doing it, the courage for doing it, the reward for doing it. There's something so embodying about it.
Yes. You actually just gave me a beautiful way of describing what I often describe to people who are in a relationship, most of the time in a heterosexual relationship where they have a partner who doesn't open up or doesn't want to do the emotional work in the same way the other person does. And it's like, in the small ways that they do show the courage to try, there needs to be the reward on the other side of it in order for them to continue to want to invest in that way. So, and sometimes it can be like, when you play basketball with a kid, you have to play down to their level in order to scaffold and bring them up to your level, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Please. That's so well said. That's so
Right.
well said.
And that sometimes happens too when even if the courage is exemplified in a way that you're like, come on, you can't do better than that. It's like, that's what their effort is. That's their effort right now. And so providing the reward, I think, is a really big thing in order to encourage that growth as they continue on. I mean, the hard thing about flirting is that sometimes we don't always get that encouragement and rewards. That's actually a good reminder for us to give that to our friends or to ourselves even, Like if you got to sometimes give yourself that of like, look at you, you went out, you see your girl doing something. Maybe she came back without the number, but you still got to be like, ooh,
I saw you.
Ooh, I saw you. I saw that look. I hope when we walked into that restaurant and we came out and then we walked in, I hope her girlfriend was behind and was like, you hypnotized the fuck out of that man. Like, what? That was crazy. Yeah. I hope that we provide that because it is something that's very nerve-wracking and scary to do. And sometimes we don't get to know the impact because we don't necessarily follow it through all the way with that person, or even if we do, they don't often come back and say like, hey, just so you know, I noticed that triangle.
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
You
uh-huh.
might just feel it in a different way of like, oh, like there's a progression happening. But yeah, I think it's nice to get that feedback loop going.
Okay, Reimagining Love listener, I want to hear the stories of you stepping out and trying a little bit of flirting that doesn't even need to go anywhere, but that just really is for you to connect to your aliveness and your power and your beauty. Okay, Shan, I want to talk just for a moment about dating. And then I've got a question for you about the long-term lovers. We've got folks in our audience, who are looking for love. And then we've got folks in our audience who are in a relationship and cultivating that love. So just tell us for a moment, like, do you have a favorite go-to mantra, reminder, kind of anchoring in for people who are dating, who are out there, doing first dates, seeking partnership? What are the things that you want them to keep in mind first and foremost?
We are so busy and overwhelmed and stretched thin. There's so many demands on our time. And yet there is another human being who has no idea what they could possibly get or give to this, that is willing to set aside their time just to see, right? Like that doesn't happen a lot. It doesn't happen a lot in other areas, right? Like we usually don't get to the place of like, okay, let's invest time until we know that there's something on the other side of this. So that just to see-ness, right? Like we don't do a podcast with people that were like, we may have them as a guest. So I'll just talk to them for an hour and just see. Like, no, I'm not talking to your ass unless I know you're going to be a good guest.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
going to make that time investment. I'm not going to hire you. I'm not going to even interview you until I get to the place where I'm like, no, this is likely to go somewhere. There's just this magic that only place I can think of in life where you just kind of have a like, okay, let's see. And that's really beautiful. Even if the person doesn't know what to do with that time or kind of fumbles the ball and is awkward or says the wrong thing, like they still set aside the time. So I think that's with dating apps or just in general, there's a discardability that we kind of assign to people. And we can come into it already being like, this is about to waste my time, or I hope this doesn't waste my time. And if we have a general grace and appreciation for the fact that another human being as busy and as overwhelmed and as in demand as we are is making this time just to see, I think that we just have a way to see dating through a sacred lens.
That's the word that was coming out for me as well. Sacred. It's a really powerful way to frame it. It is, you are reminding us that it is deeply, deeply human. Yes, mediated by technology. Yes, in a context where things can start to feel really transactional, but it is at its heart two humans who've held this time and this space to see what's possible.
That was a gorgeous translation that you just truncated it. I need to like write that down. That was gorgeous. Thank you for that.
No, you set me up, girl. Oh my gosh. Okay. So then for our long-term lovers, we know that one of the beautiful challenges of long-term intimate partnership is how do we keep cultivating the spark? How do we keep cultivating connection between the two of us outside and inside the bedroom? I know one of the things that you are doing is it called Aria?
Yes.
That is a company that you have partnered with because you believe in what they are helping create for couples. But what are some of the like kind of best practices or reminders to couples who are really struggling to hold time and space for connection with each other amid all of the demands?
In the class, in MasterClass, we talk about this a lot. And it was really important for me to emphasize that the loss of passion or the honeymoon stage is not actually the loss. It is the acquiring of freedom. It's the place where you're actually free to choose, free to decide, and in control. Because when you first get into a relationship and you sort of have that autonomous, spontaneous, carnal attraction to each other, sometimes intimacy isn't even a choice, right? Your bodies have to do it. And you can't go through a whole life like that, right? You got taxes to pay. It's a credit to the
You
relationship.
got
Yeah,
stuff to
it
do.
just wouldn't be. I think sometimes when we yearn for those things back, I think we need to put that into mental practice of, well, imagine that you're just coming home from a really hard day and you're telling your partner about it and they can't see you from any other lens other than that lustful lens. Or imagine you're trying to have a hard conversation around chores and divvying things up equally and there's that sort of pawing that's happening. And so sometimes we have this like yearning and lust for this where it's like, okay, actually apply that to your life. What you're saying is that you want to feel that when you're ready to feel it. And that means you're actually primed for that because you now have the freedom to do it. So the hard part is you have to create that magic and that momentum in that moment. But the amazing freeing part is that you now get to, and it gets to be a part of your life that you have, because you have such a rich and dynamic and multidimensional relationship. So I think it's a really positive thing and also inevitable. And there are so many couples who just want to, and I trust me, I'd love to believe you. We're just like, we've been the same hot and heavy since day one. It's 14 years in. And you're like, great. I'm sure your life expectancy has decreased insurmountably because it's also very stressful to be in that stage of fight or flight, right? Of the adrenaline dump. Too much dopamine, too much adrenaline, too much cortisol when the person's not with you because you're stressed out because you've lost your lover. Like, all those things in the beginning, right? Like that make it really fun and are also very damaging to your nervous system and to your tissue, right? So if you have that sort of fanatic roller coaster, like high passion love for years and years, then you're an anomaly. And, there's something to be said for that. But I don't aspire to that. I think I aspire to where I'm at now in my marriage. I think other people should accept and embrace that as a gift, that it's going to die. It's going to slow down. And with that death becomes a birth of something much more intentional and more time to really talk about that. Because if we have to plan for sex, then now we can also buy stuff in advance, right? And if we're going to have a conversation already around frequency, let's also have a conversation around kinks. Why not? We're already here. So even the fact that you have to kind of have these hard talks, build in the culture to bring in so many other things that often get left outside of a long-term relationship for fear that you're going to offend your partner. Well, now you already have a playground to bring those things up in. So I think it's a tremendous gift. And if you can see it that way, I feel like you have so much great sex ahead of you. I think that that's the beautifulest thing. When you're like, oh, my best sex is that way.
Right.
Because why do you want it to be back there?
No. And
don't be chasing that.
Right. It's a beautiful mindset shift. It's a beautiful mindset shift to be like, we get to keep creating this, and our bodies maybe look a little bit different. And it's, there's a familiarity that has set in, but there's the ability to, like, we get to keep doing this with each other. Like, there's something so special about that.
Yeah. And finding somebody who wants that too, like, oh, like that's the magic. That's a turn on. That's a huge turn on.
Yeah. Oh, Shan, I could talk to you for about 6 more hours, but I'm going to wrap us up. And so tell us, so we're going to have links in the show notes to all of the things, but are there particular places that you want people to go to continue to learn from you and with you?
Yes. I'm going to give this one to MasterClass. I do believe you get one wish on podcasts that people, they're very busy. And if there's one thing that you do, if you go to MasterClass and check out my class and Dr. Solomon's class and Esther Perel's class and Dr. Emily Morse's class, like there's a whole suite of women, really. I don't know if they have a male instructor in the intimacy space who just want you to have the best sex and love of your life. And for I think it's $20 a month, you can get all of them. So why not go to masterclass.com/Shan if you want to give me the credit, give me the little big up there. What's your slash? Let's throw in your slash too. Do you know what your slash is?
/anxiety toolkit.
Okay.
That's my
There
slash.
we go. Yeah. So share the love.
But we're going to give this one to you.
All right. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Oh, Shan, you are just a consummate teacher. And I'm so glad that the Reimagining Love, anybody who's here with me who doesn't already know you now gets to be part of your world as well, because you are just fabulous.
Oh, thank you. Well, same back to you. You are a queen. You're so intelligent, so gifted, and you got the best deal in MasterClass ever. You have multiple classes, and like I said, they're going to just keep pushing you and sharing you and showing you to the world because that's what they're so good at. And you get to just do what you're great at a high level, and you're teaching the kids and you're raising your own beautifully. You are a masterclass in itself. So thank you for all the work that you've done from somebody who's been following you for years and years. This was such a joy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Shan, for this invigorating conversation and for giving us permission to explore, to play, and to come alive through our own sexuality. I hope that you will take something from this conversation into the rest of your week. And if you are ready to keep learning with Shan, definitely visit masterclass.com/Shan to dive deeper. We've got all the links to all of her good stuff in the show notes as well. Until next time, be well. Thank you for listening to our show. Our producers are Elizabeth Vogt and Mary Chan and Katie Pagich of Organized Sound Productions. Our theme music was composed by Slade Warnkin. The show is executive produced by me, Dr. Alexandra Solomon. Do you have a relationship question that you want answered on the show? Visit reimagininglove.com to send in a written or audio question. Questions can be about intimate partnerships, family relationships, friendships, you name it. If you're looking for more love and relationship content, you can find me on Instagram at dr.alexandra.solomon or visit my website, dralexandrasolomon.com, where you'll find my blog as well as the Intimate Relationships 101 e-course based off of the popular class I teach at Northwestern University. Thank you for listening and see you next week here on Reimagining Love.